Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Ginetta Cup. Last time out at Zandvoort, Marco Badowski put an end to Andy Boardman's dominant streak, proving that this championship is far from a one-man show. Now the battle moves to Snetterton, a circuit that demands precision, patience, and bravery, all in equal measure. Joining us tonight in the studio with the cameras is Ash Bibby as always. Alongside me will be Joseph Black, plus a huge welcome to our team of live stewards, keeping a close eye on the action tonight to ensure fair and competitive racing as always. And fingers crossed, Joe, 19 cars in the serve at the moment. Should be a relatively easy night for the stewards tonight, I'd like to think.
Well, yeah, less drivers means that you are going to have less stewarding, or you would think at least, but hey, you never know with this sort of series. You never know with this sort of circuit like Snetterton, and you never know when Kevin Boss is the one organising the server. You never quite know what can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So rumoured rain to be on the horizon for this round. However, as you can see, top right-hand side of the screen, lovely and warm today at Snetterton. 25 degrees in the air, 28 degrees down on the track. And for the next half an hour, for the foreseeable, weather should be nice and sunny. Minimum wind speed as well should in theory mean no weather is going to blow through the circuit region in game, so should be dry towards the end. Mike Redford first out on track today. Andy Boardman weaving in the back of the shot, just trying to get some heat into the Pirelli tyres. Of course, no tyre blankets for the Ginettas, meaning it's a crucial opening lap today to try and get everything up to temperature and in the right window for the 15-minute qualifying session. Of course, outlap taking, near on 2 minutes by the time we get out the pit lane and round. A few drivers still electing to sit in the pit lane. Lenz, Urs and Malcolm. 3 drivers yet to leave, but everybody else on circuit, Joe. 19 cars on the track today should in theory mean also for some nice kind of open spaces in qualifying. We shouldn't be kind of jostling to try and find that space like we've seen in previous rounds.
Yeah, and if it's anything like how close it was last time out, then we should be in for a good one. I think it was the first, if I'm remembering right, I think it was like the top 17 were within a second of each other. I could be completely wrong on that, but that spells a very, very interesting qualifying session. And, well, the race certainly delivered last time out, because it was all, I wouldn't quite say it was carnage. It was the next step down, and hopefully we're going to have something vaguely similar to that tonight. As well, of course, we want to keep it clean as much as possible. We're on board with Les Stevenson as he heads now through the Snetterton circuit and heading through the first couple of corners. He has a car right in front of him, and that's dust kicked up from somebody just ahead of them. That could be a little bit of Les Stevenson goes very wide there. It could be somebody going off of the circuit, but we know with the way this game is that it can throw a fit in some of the corners and try and make some mud look a little bit more dramatic than it is. As Les is trying to recover now from that slight mistake that he had, and well, try and set what should be a decent lap time. No lap time so far, but everybody apart from Matt Malcolm and Gianni Lons on circuit at the moment means that they should start flying in thick and fast.
Yeah, absolutely. So still aboard here with Les Stevenson. Tyre bail in the middle of the road as he approaches down towards Oggies and Williams. It's a crucial kind of corner, Williams, to get right. It's a long drag out onto the Bentley Straight as they head their way down towards Brundle. So a poor exit from here. You can really get swamped up by the kind of train, the pack that is chasing you down. So crucial to get this right as they head towards the bridge. Under the bridge, it'll be a quick dab of the brakes, down a couple of gears, chucking it to the left. And as you do, braking a little bit more for Nelson, the right-hander. Big sausage curb on the inside, lots of track limits on the outside before we head through the bomb hole. A corner of bravery. It's normally flat out in a GT3, a little bit looser in a GT4, less aero, of course, a bit less grip as they now begin the long sweep around Coram. The right-hander feels like it goes on forever. Count the marker poles on the right, choose your braking point and stand on the brakes for Murray's. And again, good track limits on the outside of Murray's to be used, although too many will, of course, invoke a penalty. Mike Redford to the top, immediately bested by Andy Boardman. Les Stevenson splits the pair, and Callum Kerrigan with a better run through the Montreal hairpin, of course, besting Les on their opening lap. Armstrong throws himself in the mix as well as Tom Shipston. Peter Varga just behind there ahead of Mike Redford as Emo Plata begins his last kind of sector of the lap, heading towards, of course, bomb hole. Dutch driver had a good run out last time on home soil. Of course, has had a few issues throughout the championship, a few connection issues as well, so it's not been the clean run that Emo Plata would have liked to have seen. However, still remaining quite strong in the championship inside that top 10, and last time out of Zandvoort, second step of the podium. They'll head towards the line in the number 71. First time on the board. Will it be a good one? Will it put them towards the top? And it does. Second row of the grid, P3, just behind Andy Boardman, who's been bested by Will Stevenson, a duo that we've seen duking it out at every circuit in the season so far, Joe. Will Stevenson and Andy Boardman going toe-to-toe, and it looks like another front row show from the pair today.
It does at the moment, but of course there's a lot of drivers that can put their times in and try to get up there. Raphael Huell last time out was able to try to compete with them. He's not here tonight, but maybe somebody else could step up to that mantle. Somebody who maybe you wouldn't expect so far in this series, for example. The one that we're watching at the moment, Lily Armstrong, she could be going up there as she's been pretty consistent throughout in her performances, and she finds herself very high up the standings considering we've barely seen her all series long. But yeah, Will Stevenson and Andy Boardman having some intense battles last time out. Andy Boardman not the quickest on the circuit in the end as he had been previously, but is he going to go quickest this time? Not quite, 0.02 of a second off of Will Stevenson at the top. And well, we say that they've had some incredible fights. This could be yet another one.
Yeah, absolutely. So with times like that, Joe, you know, anybody's race to take. Will Stevenson immediately bests his time, 55.3. Badowski pips Lindgren just to P5. Lindgren back to the pit lane, fresh set of boots, reduced fuel load, and back out. He'll probably go for the remainder of the session. Lots of drivers usually elect to split the session in half, should it allow. So half the fuel at the start, half the fuel towards the end, and of course with a couple of opening laps to get the tyres up to temperature. Normally times quite well for a good 6-7 minutes of flying laps at least, as Martin Schaefer navigates around the final sector of the lap, looking quite good on his Delta, although bleeds a little bit of time through bomb hole. That's going to then stem onwards to Coram as he carries less entry speed looking a little bit cautious, dabbing the brakes, trying to get the weight shifted forward onto the front axle of the Ginetta. Standing on the brakes hard for Murray's over the sausage curb. A little bit gingerly, looks like he could have committed a tad harder towards that final corner. And towards the start line, he will go, bleeding a little bit of time as to where we picked him up, although still looks to be an improvement nonetheless of 57 at 6.97. Puts him that a little bit closer to Mike Redford, who appears to be struggling a little bit this week at Snetterton.
Yeah, early on, Mike not quite having the same pace that you'd expect him to, and 2.2 seconds off the pace. Surely there's something going amiss in that 95 that he's going to try and rectify it within the last 7 minutes of this session. And by the way, Will Stevenson now a 10th ahead, as well as Stevenson going wide. The two Stevensons in the conversation there. Les 1.198 now off of Will at the top, with nobody really been able to compete so far as Andy Boardman slices that in half and goes 500 slower. So whatever Will can do, Andy can almost match. And he's going to try and find that extra 500ths of a second on Will in the last couple of runs. 6 minutes 40 left on the clock, so I reckon you'll be able to get at a push 3 laps in, or 3 competitive laps, 2 more likely, and so they've only got 2 more opportunities to strike.
Yeah, of course, time is ticking in the session. Drivers soon begin to realise this and get a little bit panicky towards the end of the session. Olivier Curtin, good run at Zandvoort last time out, throws themselves up into the top 10, into that magical kind of 1 second window. Has to avoid Les Stevenson as he comes out the pit lane for his 6-minute attempt. Emo Plata towards the line. It's a bit of a long run for the Dutchman. He does best his time at 55.845, however, not good enough to beat the Team Monkey Racing number 45 just yet. However, pulls over, back to the pit lane, fresh set of tyres, reduced fuel load for the final 6 minutes, and they will go back out once again. Martin Schaefer looking to improve once again, a bit of a better time through the final sector this time by, shortens the run to the line, holding against the pit lane, and he does improve 2 positions up, jumps ahead of Byron and Varga, 57 flat. Nearly there for Martin Schaefer in the number 13, as Marco Badowski also out of the pit lane on some fresh tyres, lower fuel load once again, just over 5 minutes for the Team Monkey Racing driver. So if you are looking to try and do the fresh tyre, lower fuel load strat in the final 5 minutes, now is the kind of time to get that done, because by the time you come out of the pit lane, warm the tyres up, get them into that magical window, and get them back underway once again. You're only going to get 1, maybe 2 flying laps at a push, as Will Stevenson pushes those track limits on the final corner of Murray's towards the line. He'll go in the number 108 King Brothers racing car. Is it good enough again to best Andy Boardman? It is a 55.260. Boardman waiting in the pit lane. Will Stevenson back to the pit lane as well. I'm wondering if Boardman will come out. He does, Joe. Boardman is out, just under 5 minutes to go, 4.5 nearly on the clock. Is that going to be enough time, though, to beat Will Stevenson's pole lap? Time will, of course, tell in the next 4 minutes.
Yes, we will see what happens and what transpires over the next few minutes. I feel like that goes without saying. So, watching Lindgren, we'll move on from that now. Watching Lindgren, he's currently in 6th place, a second off of Will Stevenson. Can he get any closer as he comes up to the line? What's he going to set? It's going to be a 56.3, so he's not quite within a second yet of Will Stevenson. But 6th place, not too bad so far, but the times that will come in now will, I wouldn't say necessarily dictate where they end up in the session, but it will be keeping it very late if you were to do it in the last run, with, of course, all this time that you've had on offer, as Ted Ers is going to come up to the line next, the scariest livery on the field, and he's going to go in with a lap time. He's currently 1.182 off, and make that not an improvement. It's a 1:56.1, and he's got a lot of work to do. Lily Armstrong now up to the line. What can she do as she comes up to the line? She's 1.467 off, but she jumps 4 tenths up, and she's only just outside of that 1 second region. Jenny Lanz has not set a competitive lap time so far. This one slightly more competitive at 58.1, and he is in P18. So time's coming in now towards the end of the session. Lots of improvements as Jenny Lanz going off of the circuit momentarily there. but just trying to eke out every little bit of performance with 2 minutes and 45 left on the session. It's not necessarily panic stations just yet, but it's just about getting there. Callum Kerrigan, big fan of me from the sounds of things, as he potentially backs out of that, going a little bit wide out of the final corner. Up to the line comes the number 28. He's currently 1.4 seconds off. Not an improvement again, and there's a few lap times that are going in there that are not improvements, as they're just setting themselves up for one final run.
Yeah, it's a crucial thing, isn't it, Joe, to get yourself in the kind of right frame of mind, ease off for a lap or so, thinking out how am I going to attack it, where am I losing time, what sectors do I need to improve in. Lots of these drivers on the field will know exactly what they need to do in these final 2 minutes. Running on board briefly here with Ted Ers and the Flying Hellfish Taters car through Coram, turning right, count the poles, third pole from the end. Normally stand on the brakes as hard as you can, carry lots of speed through the final corner of Murray. Prepare yourself for a good run towards the line, whether or not it's going to be a good time this time by, or just setting himself up for one final lap on the clock. Ted Ers towards P5, a 156 flat nearly for the number 48, just behind Emo Plata, but just ahead of Aaron Jackson. So these two could be locked in a bit of a fight for the next hour or so as the green flag, of course, gets underway. Emo Plata does improve, although not good enough, Joe, to jump himself an extra row up the grid, although crossing the line still under green. So he's got enough, hopefully, in the tank to go for one more and see if the number 71 can improve at all on their final efforts. Peter Lundqvist back to the pit lane. Matthias Byron, Peter Varga, and also Matthew Malcolm have called the session a day. They'll take no further part in the qualifying session. Andy Boardman, meanwhile, coming out of the final corner towards the start-finish line. Martin Schaefer ahead of him, so might have a bit of traffic on the next lap. Andy Boardman, good improvement, 55.330. Still, though, not good enough to beat Will Stevenson.
Yeah, Will Stevenson at the moment right up the very top, 55.2, and that's looking like a lap time that's going to be difficult to beat for everybody. If Andy can't do it, then how's anybody else got any hope? As well, the final lap times will be coming in now. We've got 20 seconds left, and so anybody else coming out on their lap will not be setting a time. Matt Malcolm will be starting from the back with a time 3.5 seconds off Will, so really not what he would have wanted. Gianni Lons as well, quite a chunk off the pack, as I'd say that the top 2 seconds are those drivers within the pack. Checkered flag is waved now. We've got 3 minutes to wait to see these final lap times fly in, and can anybody challenge with Will Stevenson right up the very top? There's the number 71 of Emo Plata, who's just come into the pits. He will not be improving on that lap time. Aaron Jackson coming through the final corner now and heading up to the line. He's going to try to beat that 55.2. He's only just outside of the 55s himself with a 56.1. And he's up to the line. And it's a 55.9, jumping Ted Ers into P5. And he will be starting on the right side of the field. Callum Kerrigan now heading through the first sector, as quite a few of them won't be setting final lap times. You've got Stevenson and Boardman still out on push laps. Gianni Lons as well, looking to climb himself up from P18 on the grid. Where's he going to go? 57.8. And, well, whilst it's an improvement, it's not enough. It's 4 tenths that he's gained, but he needed at least 8 to get up to the first to P17 and Peter Varga. As Tom Shipston comes into pits, he's not going to improve. What can Will Stevenson do? Well, he's back in the second sector now and just going into the third. Can he improve on that 55.2 and seal that pole position? This will be decided within the next few corners. Callum Kerrigan, he's going to try and compete with Stevenson as he comes up to the line. Again, 55.2, the benchmark. He's got a 56.5 at the moment. And as he crosses the line, it's going to be not enough of an improvement. It is an improvement. He goes up to P12, but that is it. Stevenson now around the final corner, but he will not be improving on that time. A 55.2 is your benchmark. And it's been set once again by one of the benchmark drivers of this season, Will Stevenson.
Yeah, Will Stevenson there really pushing on that final lap through Murray's, overextended the track limits there. So, of course, he will not get that last valid lap. Qualifying cut short from the maximum countdown timer. And, of course, final results on your screen for today's starting grid. Will Stevenson fastest in 1 and 3. Andy Boardman faster through the middle sector. So we'll have to keep an eye out for the ebbs and flows of that battle. Emo Plata and Marco Badowski, the next 2 rows. Aaron Jackson and Ted Ers share that row. Olivier Curtin and Christian Lindgren a little bit out of sequence down in P8 there. Lily Armstrong and Peter Lundqvist share the top 10. Les Stevenson and Callum Kerrigan, friends outside of the circuit, so it's all going to be for friendship honours tonight between those guys. Mike Redford shares with Martin Schaefer, Matthias Byron and Peter Varga, before we round out the grid with Gianni Lenz and Matt Malcolm, making 19 drivers starting tonight's race. A little bit low on numbers, usually to be expected at Snetterton. It's not everybody's cup of tea, so we always expect a little bit of a dip in the championship when it comes here. Of course, the all-important championship fight. We're going to have a look at what drivers are where and who needs to make the most improvements here. Of course, everybody lumped into the pro category. We've got no silvers, no AMs. Everybody fighting for everything at the moment, and it is Andy Boardman streaking ahead. 263 points to Will Stevenson's 201. It all went wrong pretty much at Zandvoort for Will Stevenson. Finished P8, so dropped a big chunk of championship points there. Raphael Huell not with us tonight, although 179 points for him. Marco Badowski should set to jump him in this race with 164 points. Lily Armstrong just behind 10 points, 154 to their name. Ted Ers with 130, 3 points ahead of Tom Shipston on 127. Aaron Jackson on 119, Emo Plata on 108, and our very own Ted Edwards on 98 points rounds out your top 10, meaning Peter Lundqvist has finally slipped out of the top 10 position. Les Stevenson on 93, followed by Olivier Curtin on 89. Evan Toad not with us again tonight on 85. Christian Lindgren on 83, 2 points behind. Callum Kerrigan on 75, very far off the back, shall we say, of Les Stevenson. Of course, they share a row today, so keep your eyes peeled for those guys. Mike Redford on 68, a single point ahead of Peter Lundqvist, now on 67. Matthew Malcolm on 55, event admin Kevin Boss on 50, and Neil Pimlott on 46 rounds out your top 20. And it's quite a lengthy read here today for the Ginetta Cup. Lots of sign-ups, lots of people signing in and out along the way as we get down to Peter Varga with 43 points. Martin Schaefer on 33. Rudy Filmalter, again, not with us tonight on 26. Lauren De Jong on 23, 2 points ahead of Callum Kerwin. That's Callum with a C, not with a K. Gianni Lenz on 18 and Matthias Byron on 14 makes your last scoring driver at 27 out of a potential 36. A few more sign-outs this week. John Schultzer being one. He'll take no further part in the championship here today. And Miguel Martins also signed out, the man whose name's given us so many problems up here in the commentary booth, Joe. I think we can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief seeing the 62 on that sign-out list. Although, of course, sign-outs aren't ideal. We do understand real life does get in the way sometimes, as we have a very colourful sunny grid here today. I think Kevin Boss may be cooking something up with the weather settings for next week, of course, as we head to the final round at Imola. That's going to be quite a fun one, watching all of these Ginetta cars jumping over the curbs as we go. Taking a quick walk down the grid, a quick look at some of the liveries that we're accustomed to now, heading into what is, I believe, round 5. We are now out of round 6. The most terrifying livery on the grid, of course, that was haunting us at Alton Park in the dark. And then some more custom liveries to what we're normally used to seeing, shall we say, Joe. Sim Brothers pairing there, the 33. That's Christian Lindgren. And then just behind on the following row, of course, Peter Lundqvist, Lily Armstrong alongside there as well. And then we've got the friends of Les Stevenson and Callum Kerrigan. Again, the haunting the haunting sight of Les on his own roof. And I say it every time, Joe, the aerial placement, I think, is certainly what makes that skin so good for Les. Mike Redford, of course, with his community stickers down the door, his RCI accolades on the roof. Seasoned veteran, I would say, with us here at RCI. Been around quite a while with us as another Sim Brothers car. We've got another Team Monkey racing car. And then we've got RCI's kind of, let's say, media person at the moment, it seems like. Matthew Malcolm cooking up a lot of good Photoshop posters and screenshots over in the Discord. So big props to you there. And a bit of a hidden message maybe on the boot lid of that car. Ash, let's have a look. What does it say? Can we get to the boot lid? Proud Scotsman, you cannot always be the best, but you can do your best. And that's probably some good life advice there, Joe, as all drivers certainly have been doing their best throughout 5 rounds and another hour on the clock tonight to get things underway. Will Stevenson at the front, Andy Boardman alongside. I want to say who's your money on, but it's got to be on one of the two, surely, unless Emo Plata or Marco Badowski is going to sneak it like we saw last week at Zandvoort.
Yeah, I mean, well, if we see anything like what Will Stevenson had to deal with last week, then we should be in for a decent race, at least for that P1. But if we see anything like the pace that Stevenson was demonstrating last week, it's going to be absolutely a cut-and-dry victory for him. But Andy Boorman will be looking to try to take that P1 back, because, of course, he did lose it last time out. And, well, the number 69 is going to try to get right back on top. I mean, to be fair, Will Stevenson just sitting in P1, I think he's going to be the favourite by a mile, but anybody else can throw themselves into it. I haven't seen Emo Plate that high up on legitimate pace so far this season. So it's good to see him up there. Maybe he's a fan of Snetterton. Maybe that means that he can try and get right in there and try to fight for the win. Looking up at the top right there, the weather. I believe Kevin has let us down, and it's not going to be monsoon conditions here in Snetterton. As well, we're now down to 18 on this field, so not sure where that 19th has gone. But hopefully, whoever it is, we can get right back in as soon as we can. But we're not too far away now from this race start, and well, it's a race that Will Stevenson is going to look to win as easily as he possibly can. And so was that a brake board going flying in the background? Not sure, but something's going on with this game. There's something in the air, and it could spell for a very, very exciting race.
Yeah, certainly not rain in the air tonight, as you alluded to there, Joe. Aaron Jackson, I think, is the driver missing off the board, and there he goes, jumps back in, P19. He'll start from the pit lane, so maybe some technical issues there. A good time, though, to read our partners as drivers, of course, get underway on their formation lap. Halfway through now, getting heat into their tyres. Bottom left-hand side of your screen, you'll see a partner roll around. And, of course, Ready, Set, Sim, one of the titles on there at the moment. Build your dream sim rig in seconds with their sim rig builder. Their mission, of course, to simplify sim racing by providing a comprehensive and personalised experience, and also providing our €400 prize pool alongside RCI trophies for the RSS Endurance Series. More on that later. Coach Dave Delta, faster lap times, of course, start with Delta setup and data analysis tool for iRacing, ACC, LMU, and GT7. Green Man Gaming, where you can buy, of course, exclusive games and game keys with Green Man Gaming. More on them later. IMB Racewear, providing fully custom designs to allow sim racers and real-life racers to make the impact they've always wanted in their merchandise. And Moser Racing, who we partnered with last year, of course, no stranger to those guys. And Motorsport UK Esports recommended community. All of their links down below in the description, including the RCI relevant links to Discord, social media, and the website, where you can, of course, find all of our events. But we are ready to go green here at Snetterton for round 5. Will Stevenson on the left-hand side of your screen, Andy Boardman on the right, Emo Plata and Marco Badowski in the background, and it's a good jump already for Will Stevenson. He surrenders the inside line, thinks he's carrying enough speed, and he certainly is. Andy Boardman drops into second. Emo Plata runs wide through turn 1, a bit of a jump, gets it back underway, loses a position though to Badowski and Ted Ers as they head in towards the Montreal hairpin for the first time. Typical typical pinch point. Normally in bigger grids, it's where all the chaos kicks off, but smaller numbers here tonight looks relatively clean as they head through Palmer down towards Agostini. The first kind of, or the second, should we say, big braking zone where passing moves typically happen. Badowski's found himself in some nice clean air. Drivers concertinaing behind nearly 3 wide as they stand on the brakes, but the lead 3 have broken away. Ted Urs sniffing at the back of Badowski, trying to get away from Emo Plata, and that terrifying face on the front of the number 48 isn't what I want to see in my mirror, as now we head up to the middle sector of Oggies and Williams. Remember earlier on I said it's crucial to get a run out of Williams because it's such a long drag down the Bentley straight, especially with a bit of slipstream involved as they head towards Brundle. It looks like everybody's trying to break the toe just enough from the opponent ahead of them, although Lily Armstrong, Olivier Curtin might be towing them along as they head towards Brundle, closing up the gap ever so slightly, and very brave on the brakes there. That was Christian Lindgren, totally misjudging where he had to stand on the anchors, shortcutting the chicane, gives up some ground, pulls in just ahead of his teammate Peter Lundqvist there. Les Stevenson gains a place out of that in the number 46 as they head through Coram for the first time. Single file corner, there's absolutely no grip around the outside of here, but if you can make it work, you certainly get the favoured line in towards the final corner of Murray's, and that is lap 1 complete here at Snetterton. 2 minutes gone on the clock. Will Stevenson leads Andy Boardman. Marco Badowski, Ted Urs with a good jump. Emo Plata going backwards in this early stage. Lily Armstrong, Olivier Curtin, Les Stevenson, Christian Lindgren P9, and Peter Lundqvist, his teammate, acting as a bit of a rear gunner at the moment, fending off Tom Shipston as they head through turn 1 of Riches. Everybody now, Joe, I think just about settling out, finding their feet and finding their dance partner, almost, if you like, or the train that they're going to be in, as we see so much here in single make racing. It's either a bit of a duo working together, as we see here, such as Ted Urs and Emo Plata, but in the background, that is one long Ginetta train coming out of Palmer.
Yeah, and I mean, it's mostly, as you say, 2 by 2, as well. Stevenson and Boardman, big gap back to Badowski, and Badowski on his own, then Urs and Plate, and then Armstrong and Curtin, and then it just continues like that. So, I mean, dance partner is pretty accurate for some of these up the peak of the field, at least. Everybody further down, a little bit more scrappy as they just try and get those races underway, and they try and go and fight their way up the field. As that was somebody off of the circuit in the foreground, not 100% sure who that was, but it was just an off moment, as we've had a couple of those now. Plate, of course, on that first lap, on that first corner, not doing particularly well. We're watching Mike Redford trying to close down on Tom Shipston. There's another off the circuit moment for Lundqvist this time. It's interesting to see on lap 1 these going slightly off the circuit already, and maybe just trying to push just that bit too hard, and then just dropping down the field as a result, or not yet, or threatening to, at the very least. You've got Redford right on the rear now of Shipston, and the two behind fighting away as, Boardman takes the fastest lap of the race, and Stevenson is trying to defend, as that was Aaron Jackson taking a moment off the circuit. Not what he would have liked to see, especially because of all the issues that he's faced tonight, and now he fights back from the very rear of the field, behind even Mount Malcolm, and those two 3.7 off of the field. The field who is now starting to bunch up a bit again, with, all of 4th to 15th place as it stands, under a second behind the car in front.
Yeah, everybody finding that little bit of space that they're comfortable with. Of course, some winners, some losers in the opening laps, as we expect to see, and then of course the losers begin to come back through the field once again. The losers then kind of drop back down to where they originally qualified. So it's a bit of a kind of ebb and a flow, depending on the luck of the start. Race replay here. Ash Bibby's caught something between our race leaders, Will Stevenson and Andy Boardman. There's certainly a bit of a rub already down into the Montreal hairpin. We're only kind of 5 minutes into the race, and elbows are already out. Paint is already being traded between the 108 and the 69. So Boardman is hungry for this one. He wants to try and get that kind of, I would say, clean sweep of wins, but of course ruined in Zandvoort last time out, P3 was all he managed. So wants to try and commandeer this championship a bit more and certainly take the top step away, as the car should be relatively light through the bomb hole. Of course, it's a bit of an aero-dependent corner as the car comes through, compresses on the apex. It's a bank corner again, so the inside line, the much more favoured line. We won't see too much action, a relatively single file corner, but the aero wash, of course, Will Stevenson just ahead in the 108. The gap kind of opens up a little bit, 0.3 of a second, although still within slipstream range and still within pouncing range should Will Stevenson make a mistake. So in theory, if I were these two, Joe, all you've got to do is work together and pray that, if you're Andy Boardman, you pray that Will Stevenson hasn't practiced the pit stop maybe as much. We've seen Will struggle in the previous few rounds with pit stops, so could he have been practicing in secret? Or will Andy Boardman have a very fast turnaround during the mandatory pit stop, of course, of which the only condition is we tack 1 litre of fuel into the car. It's a fixed refueling time, 25 seconds. So whether, you take 1 litre, 20 litres, however many you take, still going to cost you 25 seconds, meaning tyres cost only an additional 5 seconds on top. And the last few rounds we've been to, Hungaroring and Zandvoort, Joe, you remember the comparison between the old tyres and the new tyres was about a second a lap. 5 laps on new tyres, you've already made that 5-second deficit, and then it should be relatively easy to pass the guys ahead of you. So I expect with the hot weather tonight, we're probably going to see a lot of new tyres coming out on these cars halfway through.
I'm sure we will, and we continue on with these drivers maybe just getting a little bit hot under the collar right behind everybody in front. Plate just shaping up a move on Tedder's, not going for one yet, but I think it could as well be a strategy to actually go off the line, because then you don't get the car in front of you just heating you up through the corners, and then you can just take the heat out of it, and you can try to fight forward with that advantage, because everybody else will be trying to manage that pace, but some of them won't be trying to do that as it stands. They'll just try to fight forward and then deal with the consequences later, I think. But Emo Plate now staying well in the rear of Ted, right in behind, and trying to gain with that slipstream down the straights. He hasn't gained as much as he would have liked to, so he's going to sit behind just another lap. However, as will not be having that momentum and that slipstream from Badowski up ahead, so he will come under a lot of pressure, I think, when Plate decides to attack properly towards the number 48 and towards 4th place on this field at the moment. It's whenever Plate feels as though he's quick enough is when he's going to properly try to send it on Tedder's, maybe down the main straight, maybe through one of these corners, but it's one of those things where he's going to have to judge it, as that's an off-circuit moment for the blue car in the background. I believe that may well be Shipston potentially, but is just another moment off the circuit to add to the list.
Interesting from the last laps of your race leaders, Will Stevenson and Andy Boardman, both invalid lap times, according to our timing tower. So somewhere along the line, they've exceeded track limits, which again could mean a warning for the drivers. An hour on the clock today to manage essentially 4 warnings before you do get that penalty coming in. Mike Redford has left the server and joined back in, so he's had a few connection problems. And another driver I'm not quite spotting on the timing tower is Matthew Malcolm. I believe he has gone away from the server as well. So 2 drivers falling foul, including Aaron Jackson on a bit of a comeback drive from his disconnect on the grid, although great to see him back and fighting back through as he dispatches of Gianni Lenz down towards the mid-sector of the circuit through Brundle and Nelson, clears them very confidently by the time they get to the bomb hole. So nice and comfortable bit of clean air now for Aaron Jackson to really pound in those laps and try and close up onto the train ahead. And of course he's going to be praying, he's going to have his fingers and toes crossed that mistakes are being made ahead, and lots of people are kind of battling each other and getting entangled, because again that loses time, and that means that of course Aaron Jackson can close back up to those guys. There's lots of dust again being kicked up through Richards. It's a very kind of brave corner. You almost kind of kick the brake pedal, dab it down a gear, throw the weight through, and just try and hope the car sticks. It's much easier in a GT3 car, but again, GT4 car, less aero, kind of skinnier tyres than what maybe drivers are used to. It's a bit more speed to scrub upon entry, so it can catch a lot of them out, but you can pick up track limit warnings quite easily here at Snetterton through Riches, namely one corner through, of course, Oggies and Williams. Very easy to do so, as well as out of Nelson and Murray's. So got to be very careful you don't pick up too many of them. Another race replay, this time from your race leaders down into Agostini. Will Stevenson on the inside. Andy Boardman tries to do the old up and under. There's the old bump and run going on as they go side by side into Hamilton. Although Boardman slotting back in at P2, more contact, more paint being traded. And I've raced with Andy Boardman a few times, Joe, and he can be very aggressive if the mindset takes him. And if this is one of those classic Andy Boardman fights that's going to boil over relatively soon, I think we're going to see quite a hefty lick on Will Stevenson's car and Andy Boardman taking the race lead. But maybe he's a changed man. It's been a few years since I have raced him in any championship. And of course, with a comfortable championship lead he's got at the moment, is he going to risk all too much with our live stewards watching down on him?
I think so. I mean, it's one of those things where he won't necessarily be concerned about the stewards because he wants to take that P1 and just pulling out, trying to force a mistake. But as it stands, Stevenson still holds on to that first place. This is a battle that could also boil over with Tedros, Emo Plate and Lily Armstrong. Emo, who's been looking, darting to the inside and the outside of hers on the previous few laps. As something's happening in the background involving Les Stevenson, who's up into P7 now. But this could be the outside line beckoning for Plates, that we get a look at Les Stevenson and a fight that could have already boiled over on the 6th lap of this race. Les holding on to P7 as it stands, but coming under pressure, a lot of pressure from Lindgren, who's going to pull to the outside line. Can he make that move stick? Not quite. Lily Armstrong looked as though she was trying to shape up a move on Plate as well. So this is clearly the lap where drivers are trying to take their opportunity to get through. And this is Plate now on the inside line of Ted Ers. Can he clip through? Yes, he can, quite easily. And the exit now could be Lily Armstrong's. As she heads around the outside, it's going to have to be pedal to the metal as soon as she can. And riding over some of the dirt on the outside to try and make this move stick. She has been able to pull still side by side alongside Ted Ers, but he's giving her a right old fight back. And, well, Ted, with the slipstream of Plate, should just be able to pull through, but it is going to be, well, Lily is going to pull it back in as Lindgren goes for the move on Les Stevenson in the background. So the fight in the top 10 getting a little bit feistier as it stands. It stays almost as it is, the only move being the fact that Plate has now made his way past hers. Finally, he's been looking at that move for the last few laps, and he's finally made it stick.
That's the crucial thing, isn't it, Joe? Is making the move stick once you've done it. It's so easy here at Snetterton to, overdrive the next corner or, underdrive in a sense, and suddenly the opponent you've just made light work of comes sailing back past you just as you think you're all kind of home safe and dry. Cars scattering around the start-finish straight. Olivier Curtin trying to peek up the inside of Christian Lindgren, the 33, really struggling with some pace here today. Darts out, looking to the inside of the Montreal hairpin. Dust being kicked up by a car ahead of Les Stevenson. I can only assume it's going to be Lily Armstrong or Ted Ers as they get the elbows out through the first sector. Olivier Curtin in a bit of a Sim Brothers sandwich at the moment. One ahead, one behind. And Tom Shipston equally breathing down Peter Lundqvist's neck, trying to get involved in this fight as well. And one small mistake from Les Stevenson could see a couple of cars coming past Christian Lindgren to the inside. There's contact. Les Stevenson goes round Lindgren, does the honourable thing, I think, and waits, although just bleeding time and positions. Les Stevenson gone from P7 all the way down to P12. That's a catastrophic kind of time loss there. I think Lindgren misjudged the breaking point of Agostini. It's such an easy corner, Joe. You kind of come out of Palmer, you know there's a bit of a straight, you switch off, you forget to count the braking boards, and then all of a sudden you're too late and you're going to be into the car ahead. I think Christian Lindgren there tried to take avoiding action, ABS doing its thing and not allowing him to slow down and of course lock a brake heading into the corner. Unfortunately, Les Stevenson was the next target for Christian Lindgren to hit. did the honourable thing and waited. However, RCI stewards don't take too favourably to waiting anymore. They judge the incident purely on the incident itself and not the aftermath. So expect to see probably a hefty time penalty coming in from Christian Lindgren. And we said it would be relatively quiet for the stewards tonight, but I think we've seen a few elbows out manoeuvres they can get their teeth stuck into. And I can only assume if, previous rounds are going to be the history kind of gauge, should we say, on what's going to be decided tonight. It's probably going to be a lot of racing incidents and minor contacts. We've had a lot of kind of hard racing reports as Martin Schaefer looks to the outside of Callum Kerrigan through turn number 1. Not to be around there. Lots of marbles, not a lot of grip. And the inside line, certainly the more favoured one. Callum Kerrigan holds on to P10, although Les Stevenson in the number 46 already closing back up with Christian Lindgren in tow on this one. This should be a very interesting four-way fight about to form.
It should be a very interesting fight that's just in its infancy at the moment, as we get a race replay of Matthias Byron having a fight here, just trying to hold the outside line. A little bit of a tap as they head through the corner, but not too bad for Byron, who sits in 16th place, joining the Sim Brothers team with those Jurassic Park liveries, getting overtaken by Aaron Jackson. We're down to 17 now, as Mike Redford's internet has died, unfortunately, and 17 drivers still will be competitive, especially these top two. Andy Boardman has sat behind Stevenson for what I'd imagine he would feel is too long, and now he's got to try to make this move stick at some point soon. It will be all over the rearview mirrors of Will Stevenson as they head around to the main straight, and slipstream will come into effect for Boardman. Stevenson will punch a hole in the air as Boardman braking late into that final corner, not trying to get a run on the exit, instead just trying to pressure and force a mistake from Will Stevenson, or maybe simply just missing his braking point. They're going to head down now, and Boardman not quite making the inroads that he would have hoped to. Maybe looking to the inside, maybe just backing out. Yeah, he's indeed going to back out, as Stevenson still sitting in that first place position, and Boardman always trying to pressure, trying to force that mistake, giving a little bit of a flash of the headlights just to remind Will Stevenson, if he can't see that light blue car in his rearview mirrors, just to remind him that he is there and he is raring and ready to race.
The Ginetta headlight flash, probably one of the least satisfying ones within ACC. It's such a slow flash. It really doesn't demonstrate any kind of urgency or frustration when you do hit that button. But side by side, Les Stevenson and Martin Schaefer as they head through Palmer. Stevenson going to have to go the long way around the outside, and still side by side as they begin their run down to Agostini. Last of the late breakers, Christian Lindgren in the background, probably braking a bit sooner than he did last time. Schaefer runs himself deep. Les does the old up and under, gets side by side as they head towards Hamilton. A bit of a trade-in paint between the two. The inside line prevails for Les Stevenson, and can he get the overlap done by the time they get on the brakes for Oggies? They can. Martin Schaefer still on the inside, although Les carrying much more momentum around the outside. I think he's just about got the move done, as ACC cameras doing us dirty, but Schaefer not giving this one up, still side by side as they head out on towards the Bentley Straight. And this is going to be the run that I reckoned was so crucial, and you can see Les Stevenson with a much better run, Christian Lindgren tucking in the wake of the number 46 as he tries to split the two through the middle into Brundle. The inside line is open, side by side for Lindgren and Schaefer as they head into Nelson now. Schaefer really isn't giving up these positions. I mean, he's normally, just outside the top 10 and certainly sticking it to the big guns. Christian Lindgren, I think, has even been a Ginetta Cup champion in the past here at RCI, and Schaefer there skating very wide through Coram, can't get the weight over the front axle and get the bite through the corner that he needs so desperately. Runs wide out of Murray's. This is looking very scrappy now from Martin Schaefer, and Christian Lindgren closing up once again as they head down the centre straight towards the start-finish line, down towards turn 1. Lindgren towards the outside, Schaefer on the inside, and Lindgren breaks very early, very suddenly. Schaefer runs too deep. He does the old up and under. He tries to get alongside by the Montreal hairpin, but Schaefer does just enough to hold on, and Lindgren now puts the nose up the inside. The room is given from Schaefer, and Christian Lindgren now up into P12 as well. That started all the way down at Brundle, went through the whole of sector 3 and near enough the complete sector 1. Schaefer really did not want to give that position up, Joe.
He really, really did not. But that just shows the sort of racecraft that we've got. Because, well, I mean, this is a battle at the end of the day for P12. As so you can see there, the penalty coming through for Christian Lindgren, 10 seconds worth is what he has to his name because of that incident with Les Stevenson. And so that's a lot more work to do. We've got the other Stevenson still up the top. Les Stevenson still leading ahead of Lindgren and trying to close in on Callum Kerrigan. Now this is Stevenson trying to close, or Boardman trying to close in on Stevenson even, as they head now around 2 at the final couple of corners once again. They'll go to them for the 11th time and head down the main straight with Boardman once again trying to pressure Will Stevenson, who has that number 1 on his car because he is in that first place. And, well, can he hold on? It's slipstream once again for Andy Boardman as they head down the long straight. It's going to be Stevenson trying to cover off the inside line. Boardman is going to tuck to the outside line. He's going to try and make the move on this occasion. It's going to have to be a late braking one. And Will Stevenson, just with that turn-in, has done just enough to hold on to P1 for now. But Boardman continuing to try to threaten, diving to the inside, then the outside line once again, and eventually having to tuck right back in. But Andy Boardman still continuing to try to pressure Will Stevenson, and this could be a battle that wages on for the rest of the race. It's done almost half of this race around Snetterton so far, and you get the feeling that it's going to continue as what's happened there for, I believe, Peter Varga, who's that was indeed Peter Varga, an off-track moment and doing pretty well to actually stay out of Aaron Jackson's side of the car as, yeah, there we go, going wide, trying to overtake and actually backing out at the perfect opportunity. The racecraft there shown by Varga is pretty solid, and he stays in behind Jackson for the time being. Closer to Byron behind now than Jackson ahead.
Very well held there from Peter Varga on that snap piece of oversteer. Meanwhile, Boardman and Stevenson clattering together once again down at Agostini. I think this was already brought up by the stewards, and side by side now as we cut back to the action through Brundle. Nelson for the inside for Andy Boardman, although in the oversteer on the inside allows Stevenson to swoop around the outside, and Boardman goes back to P2 once again, but it's all elbows out for Andy Boardman, and Will Stevenson making that Ginetta very wide indeed tonight. Stewards already been looking at these two. Lap 3, turn 2, lap 6, turn 4, both deemed racing incident minor contact. So they are on the stewards' radar, so be very careful in your next few moves. Meanwhile, of course, we do have a penalty given out to Christian Lindgren. That was for lap 8, turn 4, involving the 46 and the 33. That was a 10 seconds for the 33 for avoidable contact. That was, of course, on Les Stevenson down at Agostini. We saw that earlier on the broadcast. And then we've got a few more for the number 100 and the number 99. That's Aaron Jackson and Matthias Byron. They've been duking it out. Apparently, lap 8, turn 10, and lap 9, turn 1, both deemed racing incident minor contacts. And the final report on the stewards so far, lap 10, turn 5, involving the 46 and the 13. That was Schaefer and Les Stevenson. We saw earlier on Schaefer really not wanting to give up that position, and rightfully so. Everybody, of course, in the pro category here tonight. And that rounds out the stewards report so far. McKenna McConnell and her team doing a wonderful job, as always, on Mondays, keeping the action always fair and justified, I would say. And it certainly adds another dynamic to racing here at RCI, knowing that there's always a pair of eyes watching over you as Andy Boardman looks to the outside for Brundle. He certainly gets a better run out of Williams than Will Stevenson did around the long way. Once again, it's going to set him up for the inside for Nelson. And again, a little bit too cautious of that inside curb. Andy Boardman backs out. And all the meanwhile, in the background, Joe, look who is lurking. It's Marco Badowski. He's slowly catchy monkey at this stage for Team Monkey Racing, slowly drawing in these two. The two leaders running 158s, by the way, they're battling out. And Marco Badowski in the mid-56s. But this is the only problem Andy Boardman has at the moment. He's got to balance the moves he's trying to make on Stevenson with pace. He can't be delaying the pair too much, because otherwise it's going to become a three-way fight. And we saw what happened at Zandvoort last week when it was a four-way fight for the lead. Everybody started tripping up each other, and the lead changed in the blink of an eye. So could the same thing happen here today, as we see a few more cars electing to take their mandatory stop? Lily Armstrong being one of them. Pit window open for 6 minutes now, and only 4 drivers have come down the lane so far to complete their stop. And typically we'll probably see everybody splitting the race in half once again today, Joe. Of course, no weather on the horizon to dictate that stop.
Yes, and well, Kevin Boss saying that he didn't want any headaches, I believe it was, tonight. Oh no, it was he didn't want a nightmare tonight. But I mean, that's all his fault at the end of the day. But there we go. It is what it is. Mike Redford not very happy about that disconnect, by the way, that he had earlier on. He said he doesn't think he's ever been that angry. What a waste of time and effort. And yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to say. He's now back in the lobby, 10 laps behind, and well, unlikely to get anywhere near back into this race, as we're now watching Varga versus Byron for P11. The cars now splitting themselves, but those top two still staying so close together. And well, Andy Boorman now following through. So there's a race replay here, but involving these two. Andy Boorman trying to take the outside line, switching to the inside, but Stevenson just taking the racing line, and he's easy on the exits. And well, he's just defending this position pretty traditionally at the moment. I think it's fair to be said. He's not doing anything rash. He's just simply taking the racing line and making Andy Boorman force something. And at the moment, it's not quite working for him, as well, the pit window is open, and they're going to try to pit within the next 12 minutes. They're going to try and out-pit the other person, whether it's an undercut, whether it's an overcut. One of them is going to get the strategic edge, and they will now be debating which one it's going to be.
Yeah, the awkward thing for Boorman is you don't want to pull yourself in too early and then come out into a load of traffic and spend all of the time you might have just gained taking the stop, trying to fight your way back through once again. So it's a very tactical thing. Like you say, Joe, it's, you know, who is going to blink first. It's not like real life where you can, of course, monitor another team's garage from the pit wall. Once you see movement, you know, you can call your stop within 15, 20 seconds. Sometimes have the team out on the apron ready with the tyres just to get, you know, everything shuffled around and the car back out once again. Gianni Lenz drive-through penalty. I can only assume that's going to be for a track cut, because Stewart's not giving out any drive-through penalties in their new handbook, and they do serve the drive-through penalty, and they still, of course, have the mandatory stop to make. Andy Boorman peeling off the racing line, having a bit of a look to the inside of Brundle, can't quite pull alongside, so falls back in line. Will Stevenson very scrabbly out of Nelson over all of the extra curb, and we ride on board the splitter now of Andy Boorman as they head through the final few corners. We said we touch earlier on some of the events going on at the RCI website. There's actually quite a few cropping up now, including being announced tonight. Sign-ups open as Andy Boorman jumps into the pit lane. He's going to see if he can peel himself away from Will Stevenson and get the jump by the time the number 108 also comes down the lane. We'll have to keep an eye on the number 69 to see what happens. Byron passing Varga through the bomb hole. That was a move that I wasn't quite expecting to see today. Not on the bingo card, but certainly if it was, stamp that one off for yourselves. Of course, announced tonight, I was saying, the sign-ups as well, open for the LMGT Sprint Series, hosted on Le Mans Ultimate, featuring a 6-round calendar, a mid-season break, and new circuit layouts, and up to 7 LMGT3 cars now to choose from. Why not get your name down for that one? Hosted via RCI and the SimGrid website. Be sure to read the sign-ups carefully. on how to take part in that one. Round 1 takes us down to the Algarve at Portimao. That's on April 18th, so still a little bit of time on that one. And also on April 18th, World Tour 2025 pre-qualifying closes, so be sure to get your team signed up for that one. Sign-ups and pre-qualifying open at the moment. Shorter calendar this year, but still featuring all of your favourites, and of course the big 24-hour race too. Custom RCI BOP and up to 6 drivers per team with no tyre limits. I think 19 teams already signed up for that one, so don't miss out. World Tour, always a popular event here at RCI. Night Owl, of course, moving to Le Mans Ultimate as well, officially on the website. Sign-ups open. Frantic sprint racing with hypercars is going to be a recipe for late night fun. 18 out of the 38 spaces filled so far, and the first round of Night Owl takes place on Saturday, April 5th at Sebring. And of course, over on the website as well, the Ready Set Sim Endurance Series on iRacing. 55 last time I checked out of a potential 60 spaces filled, and for the first time ever within RCI, trophies are on the table for teams finishing in the top 3 at the end of the season. And alongside the trophies, Ready Set Sim has also put in 400 euros of prize pool, so if you fancy some silverware or even some cash, get signed up for this one. Next race takes place April 12th at Daytona International Speedway. That's only round 2, so if you are looking for a late sign up, still plenty of time to get some championship points. We've had a flurry of activity down in the pit lane since I've been talking about all of the events. Will Stevenson, Badowski have come down the lane. Emo Plata, Ted Urs, Christian Lindgren, of course, 10-second time penalty. He should fall down the order. And Matthias Byron, to name a few. Andy Boardman still circulating around somewhere. Currently P5, according to the live timing tower. However, I don't quite trust that one. I'd be interested to see. I think, looking at the track map on the right-hand side, I think Andy Boardman has managed to jump Will Stevenson in the pit lane, and he has done. Look at the lead he's already got, Joseph, coming out of the Montreal hairpin. Of course, Andy Boardman's tyres are going to be hotter than Will Stevenson, so in theory, he's going to be a lot better coming through here. Just looking at the last time down the pit lane, Andy Boardman, just lost him on my timing screen for a moment there, 58 seconds from pit in to pit out. Will Stevenson, 1 minute flat, so 2 seconds lost in the pit lane. Will Stevenson. I said earlier on, Will is not as good down the pit lane as Andy Boardman. Point proven, Andy Boardman becomes your first on the road to take your mandatory stop. Olivier Curtin still yet to serve his, and still just under 7 minutes of the pit window to go. So the Belgian driver should be out front for a few more laps yet as he comes down the start-finish straight. I think he's continuing on for another lap. So Andy Boardman to the race lead, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you would have wanted. Last time I was talking about the fact that one of them was going to come out on top in the strategies, and it has been Andy Boardman who definitely came out on top. Will Stevenson, who is now in the chasing pack. Marko Badowski actually closer to Stevenson than Stevenson is to Boardman. So this could actually get spicy, as Badowski will want to be making that move up into third place, what will be second when Curtin comes into the pit. And, well, it's one of those things where can Badowski stay within range? He hasn't been able to gain that time throughout the race, but the fact that he's not too far behind, now only 0.8 seconds behind, he should be able to stay within range as Schaefer here. This is the number 13 who's going to try and go the long way around and just squeezed out, and very, very solid defending from, I believe, that will be Aaron Jackson in ahead of him. And, well, Schaefer still sitting in 13th place with Action Jackson defending that position nice and solidly.
Yeah, Aaron Jackson certainly putting on a bit of a show tonight. Disconnect on the grid, has come back, managed to fight his way through to P12 so far. And just wanted to touch actually on Mike Redford. I kind of forgot to make this point earlier on. We said, you know, he's kind of suffering disconnects. He's 10 laps down. He's way out of the running. However, P18 still takes away 13 points. So although you're 10 laps down, there's still 13 points on the table and still quite a healthy number of points, especially with the low numbers today. 13 points could mean you jump a few places again up the championship order. So certainly worth sticking it out. Of course, Matthew Malcolm hasn't come back into the server. However, if he did, 12 points to his name. So still certainly worth sticking out. Even in these shorter races, we often see a lot of people giving up quite early in the sprint race kind of format. However, Mike Redford still continuing on, and hats off to him on that one. Will Stevenson, though, has managed to pull out a bit of a gap now to Marco Badowski behind the number 45 Team Monkey racing car. Can't quite do enough to stick to the back of the number 108. And just looking at the pit stop times, 56.8 for Marco Badowski coming down the lane, so about 3 seconds quicker, than Will Stevenson. So that's probably where we saw the big gain just after the pit stop, where Badowski was glued to the back of Stevenson. And of course, the pace has really kind of started to open up once again for Stevenson. 55.4 last time by, however, not a valid lap once again. It'll be interesting to know how many track limit warnings Will Stevenson is on. Badowski 56 flat, although a valid lap. So if he does keep it kind of clean along the way, of course that could spell for some good ground. Mike Redford texting and driving, not recommended here at RCI, but listening into the broadcast nonetheless. Keep going, Mike. Hats off to you from the comms booth for sticking this one out, and of course just seeing it out to the checkered flag. Olivia Curtin still circulating, suggests a heavier fuel load for the 111. In theory, we shouldn't see fresh tyres going on that car towards the end of the race. However, if he does, that car could be an absolute rocket ship, Joe, but I don't think there's enough laps left in it by the time he comes down the lane to kind of make it worthwhile by that point.
No, I don't think he does. We'll see what Redford's able to do as while texting and driving. Not quite suggested in terms of trying to go as quickly as you possibly can. It's not necessarily the way that you should be able to do it. And well, the number 95 is going to try to come home now in P18. And well, never mind. No, he's not. What's he doing there then as he goes off into the grass? I mean, commentators' curse sometimes has an instant effect, but not sure what's going on with Mike Redford there. I think we may be seeing a message in some sort of chat there as Redford forgetting where the corner is, and I'm glad that he just didn't go into the back of whoever it was ahead of him. But Mike Redford there having an interesting moment, and I'm sure that was texting and driving coming into full effect for the number 95, and definitely not suggested in terms of what he should do.
Yeah, I'm not sure we have a steward's report for texting and driving, but maybe a first here at RCI. A few more stewards updates have come through again. It's between Andy Boardman and Will Stevenson. This stems back to lap 12 and 13. Of course, we're now on lap 19 beginning. Again, racing incident, minor contacts. This is through turns 4, 8, and then the following lap, turn 9. So 3 lots of contact. Again, racing incident, minor contacts for every single one. And then lap 17, turn 4, involving the 13 and the 99. Martin Schaefer and Aaron Jackson on that one. Again, racing incident, minor contact. So nothing too strong today for the stewards. Biggest penalty so far, 10 seconds to Christian Lindgren. That was earlier on lap 8, turn 4. That was involving Les Stevenson and, of course, Christian Lindgren. Time penalty has been served in the pit stop, so won't be added on to the end of the race, which is good so far. Just over 20 minutes on the clock, 40 seconds on the pit window. Everybody on your board has taken their mandatory stop, indicated, of course, by the green square next to their numbers. We see Tom Shipston trying the outside of Nelson on Olivier Curtin. Bit of a brave move to try that one. Andy Boardman has tried and failed multiple times, and Tom Shipston drops back into line just behind. As we were speaking about earlier, of course, a few of our partners revolving around in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Green Man Gaming has been doing quite well I hear through the affiliate link. So thank you very much if you are making your purchases through RCI. It's very much appreciated. Currently, Green Man Gaming Spring Sale is on 91% off. That's a considerable saving on some games there. They've also got Atomfall, which I'm being told is a new release at 22% off. Assassin's Creed Shadows, again, another new release at 17% off. And Doom The Dark Ages on pre-order. That's at 17% off. So seems like a small number, but still 17% off is better than nothing. And of course, Green Man Gaming, very reputable game key dealer. Of course, get the best prices and awesome bundles and exclusive game deals daily. You can find their link down below in the description. Of course, Coach Dave Delta, faster lap times begin with Delta, possibly Andy Boardman and Will Stevenson, maybe using such a tool to get their pace out of the car tonight. A setup and data analysis app for iRacing, ACC, LMU, and even Gran Turismo 7, which still blows my mind. Console telemetry data, they found a way to do it. Available in 9 languages, giving you access to setups, racing lines, and data analysis. Why not stay ahead of your rivals with Delta, as Will Stevenson is scrabbling for every inch of the track here today at Snetterton. We pay for the whole track. We might as well use every single inch of it. And Will Stevenson still trying to catch up to the back of Andy Boardman, your race leader. Boardman last time by, lap wasn't valid. And Will Stevenson there trying to get every inch of the track out of Murray's. This lap also not valid. He's getting ever closer, Joe. Under 20 minutes to go. Is it going to be a role reversal? Are we going to see Andy Boardman making his Ginetta as wide as possible? And we see the flip reverse of what we saw through the first quarter of this race.
Well, he's going to have to learn from Stevenson, who sends it to the inside line, and a bit of contact between the two, but Stevenson's got him, and he's got that P1 back that he had before the pit stop window, and he's going to try and hold on to that one now, but Boardman's going to try and fight that one back. Interesting to see as well what the stewards say, because there was a little bit of contact there, and Boardman tried to take the outside line. Can he retake this position? It's going to have to be a late lunge, and he's not going to be able to make it. The switchback could be on. But this is now Stevenson back into the lead of the race and doing exactly what he was doing previously. Just holding on to P1, driving the racing line, and Boardman is desperately trying to find a way back past. Could be the outside line into the next corner, but again, not quite got enough overspeed. And Stevenson driving the racing line, taking that traditional defensive line, and he will hold on to it once again.
Yeah, fantastic move from Will Stevenson. There was a Ginetta-sized gap just about down into the Montreal hairpin. Saw it, went for it, stood on the anchors, and prayed that that car would get checked up in time. A little bit of contact, like you said, Joe. We're going to have to see what the stewards say about this one. We'll keep an eye in their chat to see the decision, hopefully as soon as possible. But Will Stevenson certainly looking like the faster car at the moment. Let's catch a race replay. Stevenson looked to the outside, yanked on that steering wheel, sent it to the inside line. Boardman saw it coming. It was a bit too late to shut the door, tried to pinch him towards the curb. A little bit of contact, a little bit of rubbing, but nothing too major. And Marco Badowski still in the background. 2.3 seconds off the back of these two. Now 2.5 seconds as they come across the line. So although they're fighting, they're taking lumps out of each other. These two still pulling away from Marco Badowski. I think he's just going to hold station today. P3, solid effort. Although Emo Plata, personal best lap last time by. A 155.7. So the 71, now it's in clear air. Certainly got some good pace underneath it. We'll have to keep an eye on Emo Plata and Marco Badowski. This could be a fight that kind of forms in the dying stages of this race. A second faster last time by, 2 more laps or so. You should, in theory, see Badowski under pressure from Plata, and Lily Armstrong trying to fend off Ted Ers just behind as well for the top 5. Although only 18 cars, it's certainly been a very action-packed race so far, Joe, as we ride on board with Boardman. Very confident on the brakes. It's going to have to be a braking move, I feel, in these one-make series. There's just not enough differences in these two-car setups to kind of, you know, warrant the clear advantage through a a section of a corner. Andy Boardman trying to use all of the slipstream once again. We've seen it, third time lucky. Could he get a move done around the outside of Brundle, alongside, under the bridge, has to stick it alongside through Brundle, but can't carry the speed this time by, drops in behind for Nelson. And again, third time for Andy Boardman attempting that move. I will be amazed if he pulls a move off around there. We've seen it 3 times already, Joe. I don't think it's going to work. I think Andy Boardman is going to have to literally copy and paste the Will Stevenson move into the Montreal hairpin.
Yeah, it's either that or a mistake to be pulled out by Will or on Will Stevenson, which is very, very unlikely considering the way he's driven so far. And Andy Boardman is now going to have to try to pressure, just as Ted Urs is going to have to try and pressure Lily Armstrong for this P5. As well, I mean, it's partially being done itself by that scary livery Ted Urs has, which will be playing on the mind of Lily Armstrong as she heads down the straight. Ted Urs trying to close in, but not enough. As you mentioned, one make spec series, it makes it very, very difficult for moves to be made with the same or similar, at least, straight line speed down the straights. Even with the slipstream, it's not that much of an advantage to try to get by. Pulling to the inside, Ted Urs trying to force a mistake out of Lily Armstrong, not able to do so at the moment. As well, Andy Boardman's going to go around the outside of Will Stevenson, or at least he's going to try to. He's going to try and go the long way around, but just again, Will Stevenson. This is a stellar defensive performance. He's finally got him back ahead, and he is driving absolutely impeccably, just taking the racing line, and Boardman unable to do anything at the moment. He feels as though Stevenson is going to have to fight him, but the steward's report has come in, and Will Stevenson has a 5-second time penalty for contact made with the car number 69 of Andy Boardman, and that could be the end of this battle, as Boardman knows he no longer has to get past, and Stevenson knows he has to somehow eke out a 5-second gap.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very big ask from Will Stevenson. Just under 13 minutes on the clock to go, so in theory, roughly 2 minutes a lap, give or take. There's probably about 6 or 7 laps at a push, doing some quick commentary maths up here in the booth. So 6 laps, 5-second gap is going to have to be a second of a lap quicker, roughly, to be able to pull out this kind of lead. And with how racy Andy Boardman's looking up the inside into turn 1 of Rich's, side by side, the overlap is there. There's no grip on the outside line, as I alluded to earlier. Andy Boardman goes through Will Stevenson, not much of a fight, dipping a wheel in the grass towards Montreal as well, really upsets the car. Andy Boardman goes through to the race lead, and I think that's Will Stevenson kind of surrendering in his own right, if I'd say so. There's no point trying to fend off Andy Boardman. You know, you're not going to pull out the 5-second lead that you really hope. Both drivers matching their best lap times. It's a 56.7 for Andy Boardman, a 56.8 for Will Stevenson. There's, you know, minor details in these lap times between the two, and it's not going to be enough. So Will Stevenson, I think, working together quite sensibly with Andy Boardman, doesn't want to lose more time to Marco Badowski, although Badowski, the quicker of the 3 at the front, 56 flat last time by for Marco Badowski. So with those two squabbling, tripping over each other, it really does bleed time, and fantastic to see two drivers working together. I would say Will Stevenson says, you know what, you have this one, Andy, I'm done for the day. Let's just get to the checkered flag, and maybe let's try and eke out enough of a gap to Badowski that I don't drop another place, because Will Stevenson here could be set to drop down to P4, I would say, where Emo Plata is. The gap is about 3.7 seconds. 5 seconds, of course, on the time penalty puts him just ahead of Lily Armstrong. So could be a handful of positions here for Will Stevenson, all for that one move down into the Montreal hairpin. Stewards deeming it 5 seconds for an overtake with contact for the 108. We then had another incident 2 laps later involving the 69 and the 108. That was deemed a racing incident, minor contact. That was on lap 24, turn 2. I think that was this one we're seeing here. It was almost a Andy Boardman kind of roll reversal, tried to go around the outside, gave a bit of a rub to the passenger door of that Ginetta, and both cars managing to get back around once again, although we're seeing a change in race lead once again, Joe. Will Stevenson almost getting the undercut in the Montreal hairpin there, and in the background, Marco Badowski still looming in ever closer. I'm wondering, is Andy Boardman now playing a game where he's going to try and hold up Will Stevenson to lose more time, to drop more positions? Stevenson having to go down into Agostini, elbows out, contact is made once again on the apex, and now Marco Badowski joins the train. 3 cars at the front. Emo Plata looking in the background, rubbing his hands together with glee. If something happens, he's really going to capitalize out of this one. And Andy Boardman just about breaking free now at the helm of the field. It's all kicking off just as we thought it was going to kind of, reach its ending. We drew up a story of who's finishing where, and now Will Stevenson bleeding time off the back of Boardman. Badowski comes into it, and Emo Plata just outside as well. Let's catch a race replay here. It was a bit of a late lunge. It was a bit of a desperation lunge, I would say, if anything, Joe. And you could see there, Will either in the wrong gear when he got back on the power, or just completely backed out and thought, you know what, I'm just calling it here. I'm giving up this fight. If I get any closer, we're going to do something stupid here.
I think it would have been the latter, to be honest. With the sporting man that Will Stevenson is, he's just going to try to back out of that one because of the fact that he did cause contact, and he doesn't want to cause any more misery to Andy Boardman's day, as Tedder's running slightly off the circuit in an attempt to try and get as close to Lily Armstrong as he can, trying to get as close as he can on that exit, and they'll be going out once again to the straight with those eyes staring down Lily Armstrong, and it's down to who can get the better exit down the main straight. Tedder's just over a tenth behind as they head now down towards the 26th lap, and Tedder's now pulling to the inside line. Can he make that move on Lily? No, but he can force a mistake from Lily as she just allowed Ted the space, and around the outside she tried to hold on to the inside line once again. He's not been able to make this move stick, and Lily will hold on to P5 for the time being, but heavy pressure being applied there as well as here with Les Stevenson behind Lundqvist. Little bit of battling earlier on between these two, and a little bit more now, as I'm sure Les is going to try to get back through on Lundqvist as they battle for P number 9.
Yes, a battle still up and down the field at the moment. Callum Kerrigan succumbing to Les Stevenson. If you remember, they started side by side on the same row of the grid. Friends, of course, off the track as well as on. So Les will prevail in this round once again. Mike Redford still circulating around. He's still trying to set himself up for a small handful of points when he gets to the end of the race, and make all his practice worthwhile in the time and effort he has spent so far. Mattis Byron, Sim Brothers Racing entry. Usually see a few more of them in these fun kind of scenarios, but still 3 on the grid nonetheless. Lundqvist and Christian Lindgren, the other car. Usually we see them together, and there's no real team orders with the Sim Brothers. It is just kind of every man for himself. Of course, Peter Varga and Marco Badowski. He's got past Will Stevenson in the last lap. Position change once again. Emo Plata still within that 5-second window of Will Stevenson. Now, got to be careful that Lily Armstrong doesn't kind of net themselves accidentally into this realm, but 15 seconds off pace. I think Will Stevenson is relatively safe, given another position back to Emo Plata. P4 should be where Will Stevenson in theory finishes, but Badowski, second step of the podium. That's a pretty good turnaround so far for this season. Of course, last Monday's champion was Marco Badowski, this time by not such a great run. Signed out in round 1 at Brands Hatch, had a P7 at Alton Park, but top step of the podium at Zandvoort, second step at the podium of Hungaroring, and a second step here at Snetterton. Should throw himself towards the front end of the grid, especially no Raphael Huel here tonight after their P11 in Hungaroring. Certainly put them off the championship fight quite early on. I'd like to see Raphael Huel come back maybe for the final round at Imola. I'm sure, Joe, we said in the broadcast before we got going in the green room. Snetterton, not really many drivers' favourites, shall we say. It's a bit of an awkward one. It's almost like a British quota. Not too many people seem to favour this one.
No, and that was echoed with the drivers who went, oh, what track is it next? Oh, it's Snetterton. Oh. And I think that may well be why we have a slightly reduced grid for this evening, because Snetterton, not the most popular one, but it has so far today produced one of the best battles that we've had so far in the Ginetta GT Cup, as Andy Boardman now. I mean, it's fair to say that he's won that battle, Marco Badowski, in P2, with Will Stevenson dropping into P3 now. And, well, with a penalty looming over his head, with a potential further penalty looming. Although we've literally just got confirmation just now, warning for avoidable contact for the incident between Boardman and Stevenson. But it is what it is. Of course, at the end of the day, it is a little bit of hard racing, and well, there's no issue for that. However, there is a 5-second penalty coming in for Marco Badowski for pushing a car off the track and gaining an advantage. Allegedly, Will Stevenson is off the track. Goes Peter Lundqvist, and through goes Les Stevenson. That is P9 taken, and Lundqvist going massively off the circuit, dropping down to P11. But it could have been a whole lot worse, as we're getting a replay here of Lundqvist just going wide, and it just looks as though he forgets to turn and just going all the way off into that grass. Very, very glad, I'm sure he is, that there is no barrier there to stop him. But that grass has just saved him, and he's been able to get back on. But as I was saying, Marco Badowski now with a 5-second penalty. That promotes Plata to P2.
Yeah, Emo Plata in and amongst all the chaos, keeping it clean. A bit of a cloud and a silver lining, should we say. Didn't have the best of starts, but set to inherit 2 positions if he can keep within earshot of Will Stevenson and Marco Badowski in these final few moments. Lily Armstrong still chomping at the bit at the back of Ted Ers. I think this position switched around in the last few laps, because Armstrong was in P5. Ted Ers now up into the top 5. I was going to say Lundqvist also. We didn't strike any deal with the neighbouring kind of fields if we ploughed them, whether we get any discount off the circuit hire. So Lundqvist nearly finding his way into a different postcode in turn number 1, and quite easy to do when you carry so much speed into it. But yeah, very well held, I would say, for the Swede. Will Stevenson has surrendered the position to Emo Plata. I'm not sure if voluntarily or made a bit of a mistake somewhere around the lap, but Emo now up into P3, 1.7 seconds off the back of Badowski, so logically should inherit that one. As we see Olivier Curtin in the background, and I think that's Gianni Lenz taking a bit of a rallycross line down the centre straight off the driver's left. Not sure what's happened there, but no yellow flag. Manages to get it back on the road. The number 7. Let's have a look here. Bit of a daydream, bit of a hardware failure, bit of showboating. What is a high five of Marshall, maybe? I mean, the list is endless here for Gianni Lenz, but certainly finding something interesting out to the left-hand side of the circuit. Gets back underway, maybe a bit of a wheel disconnect. I'm sure we've all had the scary moment where you try and kind of make a correction on a straight and nothing happens, and then all of a sudden your wheelbase comes back to life. So let's say mechanical failure there, Joe, shall we? It was Emo Plata up to P3, Stevenson down to P4. It's a big chunk of space given there. You can just about see Will Stevenson behind Emo Plata here as they come towards the camera. So I wonder if Will Stevenson's just kind of given up and, just backed right out of all action to try and avoid any further penalties coming his way.
Yes, and well, Plata now moving up to P3 with the potential of going up to P2, as Stevenson appears to have another moment off the circuit, and it's really not going well. Maybe a little bit of head loss there for the number 108, and now he's just got to get his head down and try not to lose more time, because if he loses much more time, if he makes too many more mistakes, Ted Ers will be chasing him down and running a little bit wide there out of the final corner. Stevenson is going to try now to, well, he's going to try to regain that time. Not that he necessarily needs to, because of obviously that 5-second time penalty. He's not going to gain any positions if he gets past Plata, but he is if he gets past Badowski. But of course, first he has to get past Plata. This is the battle that is behind this battle, hoping that Will Stevenson does end up continuing to make more mistakes, with Ted Ers leading Armstrong leading Curtin. The last man to pit is in this battle for P5 at the moment, and I think it's fair to say that he's got the freshest set of tyres of this lot. The timer is ticking down, and we are heading to the end of this one, as we've still got a few battles brewing in this, as well, it's the battle between Armstrong and Curtin. It's the battle between, well, somebody going off in the background. That is, I believe, Peter Lundqvist. Once again, it's Jenny Lunds getting out of the way, so or running wide or something along those lines. Something's happened to Lons, which has meant that he goes off the circuit. But the number 7 means that he is down there, as we're watching Jackson now trying to defend from Les Stevenson. So a little bit of late action could be coming out, as we are now onto the final few moments of this race around Snetterton.
Yeah, final few moments. Of course, white flag is out. Timer has hit 0, so this will be the final lap of the race, as your race leader makes it through the final few corners, through the bomb hole into quorum they will go. Aaron Jackson, though, starting from the pit lane up into P9. That's such a good game from such a bad starting position. Disconnect on the grid, and P9, in theory, should be where he finishes. But it is this man here, Andy Boardman, takes the 4th victory of the Ginetta Cup Season 3. 4 of 5 wins to his name. Marco Badowski comes through in a close second, although we'll lose a position to Emo Plata. P3 is where Badowski should shuffle to. Will Stevenson just holding on. It's all kicked off behind between Ted Ers, Lily Armstrong and Olivier Curtin. It's going to be a neck-and-neck race in the background. Curtin prevails over Armstrong. Ers prevails over the pair of them. And we'll have to see if any further steward's decision might come in from that final corner. Tom Shipston been relatively quiet this race. He takes away P8. Aaron Jackson from the pit lane start elects himself into P number 9. And Les Stevenson just about makes the top 10. Peter Lundqvist, P11. And in the background there, Gianni Lenz coming across the line, P17. Christian Lindgren, P12. Callum Kerrigan in the sister car to Les's P13. And Peter Varga and a few stragglers still working their way through the final sector. The Team Monkey racing car will finish P14. Matthias Byron, P15. Everybody's been shuffled back. Someone has left the server, so it'll be Varga for P14. It'll be Byron for P15. And Mike Redford, P18 in theory, providing that car that left across the line. You can see the frustration there from Mike Redford, immediately into the wall to stop the car. Back to the pit lane they will go, and Martin Schaefer will be your final car to cross the line. Of course, race results on your screen at the moment are pending any further stewards' inquiries that may be going on, but Andy Boardman takes the top step of the podium. Emo Plata lucking out in this race, Joe, almost. P2 for the Dutch driver. Badowski with a 5-second penalty, and Will Stevenson equally with a 5-second penalty shuffles them down, although will take some bonus points away for the fastest lap of the race and pole position. So, of course, an extra 4 points and 3 points to his name. Ted Ers in P5, Olivier Curtin in P6, Lily Armstrong managed a P7. Quiet Tom Shipston in P8, Aaron Jackson from his pit lane start in P9, and Les Stevenson rounds out your top 10. We then got Lundqvist and Lindgren, Sim Brothers Racing entries finishing together. Kerrigan, Varga, Byron, Schaefer, Lenz, Redford, and Matthew Malcolm, unfortunately, only making 2 laps before his internet passed out. And such a shame, but still, nonetheless, kudos to Mike Redford for making the checkered flag. And we head next week, of course, to Imola. Kevin Boss has promised many a rain shower during his championship. However, we've not seen all too much, Joe. So I think the elephant in the room next week might be the weather.
Well, yes, if it's going to look anything like 2023 Imola in Formula One, then we should be in for an exciting race, of course. That race was actually cancelled because of too much rain. So he's got to be careful when he's adjusting the sliders. But, well, that was a battle for P1 that I don't think we've ever seen the likes of here. And, well, an incredible one. Unfortunate end for Will Stevenson in that one. But I think it's fair to say he and Andy Boardman gave it a really good go.
Yeah, really good go and putting on such a great show for us here on RCI TV, and of course all the viewers at home that have been watching along or lurking in the background. Thank you very much indeed. We appreciate each and every one of you. Mike Redford alluding to earlier when we saw him take the odd wide line through Agostini. He wasn't typing in chat. He just couldn't see the brake marker. So you heard it first from Mike Redford. On that one. Of course, partners have been revolving around in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. We gave them some airtime on the formation lap. Of course, Ready, Set, Sim. Building your dream sim rig is very simple with their sim rig builder. Coach Dave Delta, they've been revolving around as well. Faster lap times, of course, start with Delta. Green Man Gaming, where they've got their spring sale on, up to 91% off some titles. So be sure to check out their link down below if you are looking for any new games to play as we head into the spring. IMB Racewear, again, they, of course, sponsored our community series alongside the esports series not too long ago. Their link's also down below. Moser Racing, again, they need no introduction on who they are. And of course, Motorsport UK Esports, where we're a recommended community. And I know a few of the iRacing guys have come over from there, so we welcome every single one of you to RCI. Calendar's looking a little bit quiet this week. Just myself and Joe on RCI TV with Ash, of course. Saturday this week, though, does begin the Night Owl Hyper Sprint. Officially on the website, has been for a while now. Sign-ups open. Frantic sprint racing with hypercars. Going to be a recipe for late night fun. 18 out of the 38 spaces filled so far. Round 1 takes place at Sebring this week. Announced tonight, and sign-ups also open for the LMGT Sprint Series, again hosted on Le Mans Ultimate, featuring a 6-round calendar, mid-season break, new circuit layouts, and up to 7 LMGT3 cars to choose from. Why not get your name down for that one? That's hosted via RCI and the SimGrid website, so be sure to carefully read the sign-up procedure for that one. Round 1 takes us down to the Algarve for Portimao. That's on April 18th. And as that championship begins, the World Tour qualifying will end. That's also on April 18th. Sign-ups open on the website. 19 teams signed up already. No one completing their pre-qualifying just yet. Shorter calendar this year, but still featuring all of your favorites. And of course, the big 24-hour race at the Nürburgring. I'm certainly missing out on that one, unfortunately, there. And of course, World Tour we've covered. And of course, the Ready, Set, Sim Endurance Series on iRacing. That's 55 out of 60 spaces filled for that one. And for the first time ever within RCI, trophies are on the table for the teams. And Ready, Set, Sim also putting in €400 of prize pool. So if you do fancy your chances, we're only at round 2, and that takes place April 12th at Daytona. You can, of course, find all of those events over on the website racerci.com. And joining us for a late interview in the box, Peter Varga, welcome on in. Looked a little bit chaotic out there at times. Of course, we didn't see too much of you on the broadcast. How did it all go down from your point of view?
Well, there wasn't too much to look at in the first place. So it was pretty lonesome, apart from the voices in my head that have been just talking to me all the time. Either it's my schizophrenia or just my mates in the voice chat, I don't know.
So it always helps the time pass a little bit. Slightly better, though, from your teammate Marco Badowski. Of course, 5-second time penalty late in the game. Shuffled him down to P3, but still a good effort nonetheless. Next week, we head to Imola. There's a little talk of weather on the horizon. How's your wet weather skills at Imola?
Not very good, shall I say? I would be hoping for actually a quite dry race. Did not have much luck overall this season. So, hoping for a good one around there.
Yeah, so fingers crossed Imola maybe brings a few more numbers back to the grid as well on that one. Just before we let you get off, we're going to keep it nice and short today to get away nice and early. Anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
Not for this performance. Thank you guys. It's been a long time since I actually talked with all of you around here. So thanks for bringing me in here.
Yeah, so always welcome interviews after the race to anybody racing at RCI. Be sure to jump in, especially in the endurance races. Can get a bit lonely in here in the comms box. Just before I let you go, World Tour, have you sorted your lineup yet?
Absolutely not. Considering that also, I know about 12 people in the team. One is doing some LMU and karting in real life. Other guy is going to do some stuff for UN somewhere. Other guy is busy with studies, and the rest of the people, I have no idea. One is apparently engineering a GT3 team somewhere.
Say
And
from
also,
the game to real
yeah,
life, maybe.
yeah. And the first race is also on Easter Saturday. Why?
Yeah, to some of the dates cooked up. So I'm missing the 24-hour. I'm not even in the country, so yeah, shame to be missing out on the N24. But I'm sure there's lots of people probably out there trying to find a team for World Tour. So if you are, Peter Varga may be listening to you. Be sure to drop him a DM. Find him in the Discord and see if you can maybe cook a lineup between you. Peter, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to let you get off. We're going to wind up the show and head off.
Thank you very much.
No worries at all. Peter Varga there from the Team Monkey Racing outfit. And if you are looking for a team, they are certainly been around a while. A few different platforms, as you heard there from LMU. Of course, ACC as well. So head on over to the Discord, RCI. Looking for team, there is a channel for that. Check in there. I'm pretty sure there was a post from Peter Varga a few months ago, if not less. On that one. Also, in the Discord, you can also find a vacancies board for commentators, broadcasters, and stewards. So if you are looking to get your teeth sunk into any of those roles, you might be able to do so here at RCI. Joseph Black has done just that, and he is now alongside me quite regularly on the Monday slot of RCI TV. So find the link to the Discord down below. Join that one. Head on over to the website racerci.com. Get signed up for some events, and hopefully you might be seeing yourself very soon on RCI TV. But it is that time that we do say our goodbyes for the week. Very sad. We do head to Imola next Monday, same time, same place. So be sure to join myself, Ash Bibby behind the cameras, Joseph Black alongside me. I'm being told Ash isn't here next week, so we're going to have to see who is here next week. But it will be me, John Dalton, Joseph Black alongside me, and all of our live stewards bringing you all of the action from the final round of the Ginetta Cup. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and we hope to see you next week on RCI TV. Take care.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. control. The world blurs, time won't wait. We rise, we fight, we accelerate. 3, 2, 1, go. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. 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 We're chasing taillights. We're always chasing taillights.